When people hear the phrase offensive coach, the first thing they usually think about is play calling, third downs, red zone sequences, creativity, and the calls that show up on the broadcast copy. And Kevin Stefanski is an offensive coach. There's no denying that. But offense in the NFL is a lot more than telling players what to do. It's about building a structure that quietly demands very specific types of players at every position. Every offense in the league, whether it's successful or not, is built around a vision. And that vision chases certain archetypes, from the quarterback to the offensive line to the skill positions. The only plays that work if the people running them behave a certain way. That's where I think a lot of the conversation around Kevin Stefanski gets lost. We argue about play calling, we argue about the wins and losses, and we don't really talk about what his offense is actually built to be. Because when offenses fail, it's rarely because the concepts don't exist. It's usually because he doesn't, have the roster to match the vision behind those concepts. The quarterback doesn't play the way the system needs to. The offensive line they can't communicate the way the system demands. And another thing is the skill players don't consistently do the unglamorous things that keep the structure intact. So that's what this video is really about. Not whether Kevin Stefanski was your first or your third choice, not whether you personally love or hate the hire. This is about understanding the archetypes his offense requires to function and what the Falcons still need to address structurally if they want to fully realize that vision in Atlanta. Because building an offense isn't about collecting talent for talent's sake. It's about alignment. It's about making sure the quarterback, the run game, the offensive line, the tight ends, the receivers are all asking the same questions of a defense and punishing it when the defense answers wrong. Even one of those pieces doesn't fit, the whole thing starts to fray. That's why I want to start with the offensive profile before we ever talk about individual players. Looking at 2025 strictly through a personnel and usage lens, this wasn't a good offense by the numbers, and that's not the point. What matters is what Kevin Stefanski leaned on when things weren't working, and the clearest signal we get is this: a 41.2% 12 personnel usage rate. That doesn't usually happen by accident. That's not a situational thing. That's a philosophical choice, okay? When Stefanski needed stability, he didn't spread the field more, he condensed it. And this also plays into the league trends where you're seeing more teams go into 12 and 13 personnel to get those advantages. Okay, that's one of the reasons why people love Clint Kubiak as a schemer, because that's what he's doing. Stefanski leaned into personnel and he leaned into the structure of it. And even though the passing efficiency dropped and EPA wasn't that great, the run game was actually improving. The yards per rush went up, obviously, because you have bigger bodies on the field. All right, that tells you that the tight ends weren't just on the field, they were doing real work, creating blocking surfaces, helping in protection, and making offense survivable. And that word matters, survivable, because tight ends in this offense aren't luxury pieces. In my opinion, they're stabilizers. They're how Kevin Stefanski protects the quarterback, disguises intent, and keeps defenses guessing and getting keeps them from getting a clean read on the pre-snap. This is an offense that wants to dictate terms with personnel, not chase matchups with isolation routes. So once you understand that, the next question is, who's the star tight end? Is how do you build a tight end room that allows his offense to function? Because Kevin Stefanski doesn't need one unicorn. He needs multiple tight ends he can trust, who can block in line, release late, hold a protection, and then do their job without freelancing. That's where roster construction comes into play, because when you look at potential tight ends to target, this isn't about ranking the names or predicting the splash moves. It's about identifying multiple paths to fulfilling the same offensive requirement. On the free agent side, that can mean retaining someone we already, have in the building in Kyle Pitts, not as a statement move, but as part of a functional room. It can also be adding role players like John Fitzpatrick, Chiga Okonkwo, Jake Tunges, or Connor Hayward, players who don't need touches to justify their presence, but allow the offense to lie to defenses snap after snap. And the solution doesn't come through free agency. Then the draft offers another path. Prospects like Oscar Delp, Miles Kitselman, Sam, Eli, and even Tanner, they aren't about instant production. They're about development, depth, and role clarity. Guys who can grow into trusted pieces in a system that values align reliability over flash. We're in 13, jumbo 13 at that. So we have an extra lineman right here when we have our two tight ends. And remember, if you watched the Kevin Stefanski video, I said Harold Fanning Jr. really isn't a tight end. He's an H-back. He's a tight end. He's kind of receiver-ish. So that's why I just call him an H-back, because he's kind of like 101 right now. All right. So let's get into what's going on. So we're going to get the shift right here where we're going to bring him across and he's going to get off the line. All right. So you're going to see they're going to shift right here. He goes off. Now he's on. All right. And so now what the defense is seeing is they're seeing, okay, they see one tight end, one extra lineman, I formation in the backfield. Okay. That's probably a heavy run indicator. All right. And what probably these guys are thinking is, all right, we're going to get some kind of downhill run attack. And when you watch this play, that's not exactly what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is they're going to run this guy off, all right, and then they're going to have him insert through the B gap and run a rail route. All right, it's kind of like an iteration of post wheel. You're just doing it out of I formation. Okay, and this is like the main element of what's going on because he's going to be wide open. Now, I do think he ends up running like a corner route, but either way, if it's a rail or a corner, the same thing really still applies. Okay, because now when you look at this play out, you're going to see what I'm talking about, where you get the hike and you see you do I wouldn't say it's a convincing play fake, but if you also look, I'm going to show you, you know, how this ties together with the run game because you marry the run and pass together, right? So you're going to see this right here. He's going to pull around, and I call this gap protection, all right, because now that messes with the keys of these guys. So now their initial instinct is to just trigger down, all right, and especially this guy right because he's going to be on a blitz. So I think based off of the coverage, it was man coverage but somehow he gets lost because now when you watch it, let me move this back to the center right here. When you watch this play out, right, you're going to see what I'm talking about. You see the guard pulling around. You see these two guys are feeling fast. And remember, he's blitzing, but he's trying to, you know, get downhill because he sees the guard. All right. And you see, once again, he just gets completely lost. Nobody's guarding him. I would assume this would be him because you see what he's doing. But I would also say, you know, Caleb Von Chason is just jamming him, and then he's going to play man coverage. But still, who is guarding this guy right here? Nobody's guarding him. You see that? Look at that. The nearest person is about 10 yards away, okay, in either direction. You see you can catch an easy touchdown. So having these convincing run fakes and these big personnel groupings, it just does wonders for us. And then this one is how it ties together in the run game. So you see it's the same formation, okay? What you're pretty much going to be getting, everybody's going to be washing down except for this guy, all right? And then we're going to be getting really just power. So he's going to come, he's going to insert and kick out. He's going to wrap around and be the lead blocker. All right. Now they eventually end up getting the same guy. So I don't even think it's like a traditional power. All right. It might be some kind of, I mean, it is power because he's doing that. He's going first. He's coming second. So I consider it power. All right. So you're going to see what I'm talking about where it's going to look like the run fake. Okay. Or it's going to look like what we just saw earlier where you get this pull. He's going to release into the B gap or C gap rather. And it's going to look like a run. All right. And then instead he just bluffs and runs out on a route. And you see we get about 11 yards on this. So Kevin Stefanski knows how to marry the run and pass. All right. That's something Zach Robinson didn't do. That's an objective fact. All right. The run did not marry up well with the pass, in my opinion, because now you see something like this where you see how it easily translates where this looks like a run. It is a run. You go to the first clip. It looks like run, but it's actually pass. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't see how people think this is going to be just a terrible hire. I wouldn't say it's the slam dunk one, but yeah, like there's just nothing there. It's just untrue. And I want to show y'all where it's still working off of the run fake. All right. And because remember, we're still in the big personnel grouping. So we have 1, then we have 2 and 3 right here. 3 tight ends. Okay. So we're still in 13. Okay. And here's the one running back, obviously. So what we're going to get this guy releasing out is Harold Fannin Jr., right? Remember I said he's kind of like a H-back, right? We're going to get this pylon route, first of all, to clear route. Now, this ends up getting open late, but the ball is already out. Then you're going to get this cell route by Harold Fannin. You're going to get the release out here, so you have your 3-level flood concept, all right? We're going to fake the run right here, and he's going to set up to pass, okay? And I want to show y'all, like, what this does to this guy in particular, because he triggers down hard, okay? And he's supposed to be the underneath defender right here that he's supposed to be reading. You see he gets way too far down in terms of playing the run. Because now look at this, guys. All right. So you see now 1 for 1, all of these guys bite on it, okay? And you see that he comes all the way down to the line of scrimmage because that run, well, I wouldn't even say the run fake was that convincing because now you look at this, like, come on, he's already pulling the ball back and he's still running down there. And then he starts to, you know, robot turn and get his eyes back, okay? But you see that run fake was convincing enough to him for some reason that Harold Fannin Jr. was just wide open. And look at this, okay? Now, I do think Dylan Gabriel could have, like, you know, threw it a little bit, like harder. I don't know if he has a strong arm or not. I really didn't watch him coming out, but if you put this like on a line, frozen rope, oh my gosh, he could catch that and run some more. But very good play design right here, is especially like considering we really didn't do this much until later on in the season, and I wouldn't even say it was that efficient when we did it, in my opinion. So good stuff right here. And once you understand how foundational tight ends are to this offense, it naturally changes how you view the wide receiver room. This is where things get really interesting, because on the surface, the Falcons receiver production looks fine in 2024. Drake went for over 1,300 yards. Mooney finishes with 992 yards, 8 short of 1,000. Ray gave you around 700 total yards if you want to include the rushing numbers with the receiving numbers. And the Falcons were one of the only teams in the league to have 4 different guys catch at least 60 passes if you want to count Bijan and Kyle. And statistically, that doesn't look like a desperate situation. But then when you go look at the 2025 tape, it tells a different story. Outside of Drake London, nobody in this receiver room was consistently respected by defenses. Teams were comfortable rolling coverage towards Drake, flooding the front side of the formation with zone defenders, and living with the consequences elsewhere. All right. Even when Drake was aligned in the slot, defenses still tilted the coverage his way because there wasn't a true counterpunch on the outside that forced them to stay honest. That's why when you look at the graphic on this screen, the receiver discussion is split into 2 distinct paths, and then again split by free agency and the draft, because this isn't about one player fixing everything. It's about choosing how you want the receiver room to function structurally. The first path is keeping Drake London as your premier power slot. If that's the direction you want to go, then the X receiver sections of the graphic matter the most. Whether through free agency or the draft, you need a bona fide outside receiver who can win on the boundary and command some respect. Someone who prevents defenses from flooding the front side of the formation with zone coverage and bracketing Drake London without consequences. The names listed aren't about star power, they're about forcing defensive alignment and making coverage rotations more costly. And then the second path is moving Drake back to X, where he was still a very good receiver, and you probably slide Darnell Mooney into the slot full time because he fits that archetype more than the X receiver, and that's what he was been playing in Atlanta for the last 2 years. And then you add a gadget type of receiver to play off of these two. That's what we had in Ray. That's why the bottom half of the graphic exists. You know, those role players aren't there to lead the team in targets. They're there to stretch space horizontally, create motion, manipulate leverage, and force defenses to declare coverage earlier. And in that setup, the gadget receiver isn't asked to win in isolation. They're asked to make everyone else's job easier. So when you look at this graphic as a whole, it's not about rankings, it's not about prediction, it's a map, all right? 2 roster building avenues, 4 acquisition paths, and all solving the same underlying problem. Defenses were too comfortable dictating coverage against Atlanta receivers, and Kevin Stefanski's offense doesn't need more catches, it needs receivers that changes how the defenses do what they want to do. Okay, X, he will be doing some of this stuff in this system right here. So we're going to be looking at Amari Cooper at the bottom of the screen. Now, he is playing X, all right? Now, if you don't know how to tell formations, I'm going to just draw one up right here, okay? When you draw up a formation on like a whiteboard or something, you always think X is going to be on the backside. He's always going to be on the left, all right? Because offenses are innately right-handed, okay? So you're going to get, let's say the tight end is going to be Y off, and we're going to get the Z right here, okay? You're going to get X on the backside, Z on the front side. Let's say it's a 3x1. Okay, so we're gonna get the F right here. So we always know that X is on the backside of a formation. We already know Z is typically on the front side. Sometimes it would be the Y is on and the Z is off, but it just depends on the team. But like, then you could just mix and match, you know, where you put guys. Okay, so that's just really how it goes. But Amari Cooper's gonna be here at X. I don't know why I did that. But yeah, Amari Cooper going to be right here at X a lot. And this is where we will see Drake London. Now, do I think he should be back at X? No, because then that makes the job easier for the defense. Okay, we know he's going to be here at all times. No, move him around, make the defense have to think. Okay, so you're going to see right here in this route, it's pretty much one-on-one. It's going to be cover 3, but it's essentially one-on-one because he's going to go deep down the field. But we're going to get a blaze out. So you're going to go up, go to the post, and then break back out. Okay, this is one of Julio Jones' best route, and to see Amari Cooper do it, who is also from Bama, like, come on, I think only Bama receivers can run this route perfectly. Okay, but now look at this, you're gonna see what I'm talking about, where he's gonna push upfield, he's gonna attack like he's going to the post, and then break back out. Okay, now is it as smooth as Julio? No, because he's 1 of 1, but you can see that still works. And then think about this is a cross hash outbreaking throw by Joe Flacco. Mike can do this. Okay, Mike can, like, there's no question Mike could put this on the line and make this throw. Okay, so I do believe we will have sets where Drake is at X and he does this, but I don't think he should be at X full time because we see what he can do as a slot receiver. Like, ooh, come on, man. Got his hips turned around, worked him good, and it's an explosive play. Like, come on, man. A lot of the route diets I see is, you know, slants, digs, comebacks, out routes, post routes, like stuff that Drake London already runs, okay? And he ran it at Z, he ran it at X when he was with Arthur Smith, but like in this situation right here, like these are just like easy completions, okay? So we're gonna get a split field concept. So we're splitting the field in half and we're reading it based off of what the defense does, all right? So we have a slant. Oh, that's a big ass slant. Let me stop that. That's a really big slant. So we're gonna get a slant. We're gonna get the arrow right here. Then we're gonna get a stick concept where the stick route is right here by the tight end. Go up to about 4 to 5. You get to break out if you're matched man to man by this guy. You're going to get the arrow out right here. You get a must outside release or mandatory outside release. So you're pretty much picking your side here. And Deshaun Watson goes this way because I think it would just be much clearer to him. And I think based off of what the Washington defense does when they go empty, they do have Bobby Wagner to the trip side, okay? Every time. I wouldn't say every time, but it's most of the time, I should say. Okay, so he was like, maybe let's just read off of Frankie Louisville, who's the weaker cover linebacker of the two, and we're gonna read off of him. Okay, so you're gonna see what I'm talking about, where it's just easy completions, I would say, because he's just like a reliable target. And Drake is a reliable target, so put him in a reliable spot, running some reliable routes that he can actually do. So you're gonna see what I'm talking about, where it's a quick and easy read. He's gonna favor that arrow just a little bit. Now, I do think he threw it. I do think he threw it a little bit late, but you see they kind of just passed it off a little bit. But you see Frankie Louisville really didn't have vision on Amari Cooper, so he was able to drift upfield just a little bit. And you see Deshaun Watson just put it on the spot where Amari Cooper could go get it. You could tell they practiced that a lot, and he got a little bit more rack. Okay, this is the type of thing that Drake would do. You know, this is a Drake London like type of play where you catch the ball, lower your shoulder, get a few more yards, and you're down at the goal line. Okay, you can't tell me that isn't something he would do. I'm gonna see how this ties back to the first one. Okay, so what we're gonna get here, we're gonna get number 88 motion and be over here as the fullback. Okay, so we're gonna pretty much be getting, I would consider this, is it strong or weak? Because you got two tight ends and then you have the receiver here. So I would probably say this is weak in my opinion. So either way, we're in 13 personnel where we have the two or the three tight ends right here. And then we're going to have, I guess it becomes a 22 personnel set because he becomes a fullback. But you're going to see what I'm talking about, where he motions right here. And now what we're going to get here from the offense is a different formation. So what we're going to get still from like what we saw with the first segment with the tight ends, you're going to get this pull right here by the guard. You're going to get, he's going to block. And then as far as the route, you're going to get this crossing route by this receiver right here. And then you're going to get this dig right here. Okay, it's a two-man route concept. We're going to get 8 guys in protection. And this is one thing I said in the first video about Stefanski. This is what he loves to do, these play action shot plays where you get a lot of guys in, you go deep down the field, and you let the quarterback work. And remember, Amari Cooper's here at X, right? Left side of the formation, okay? So you're going to see what I'm talking about, how what we saw in the first segment is going to marry up to the second one, all right? Because now look at this. You're going to see pull around. You're going to get 8 guys in protection right here. You got 2 guys out on the route. You're going to get a very good chip right here by number 88, and he's going to get out, okay? Jacoby Brissett does a very good job of stepping up in the pocket. Now, one thing I will say for Mike, his next step in development is stepping up into the pocket, okay? Step up, step up, step up. And then boom, you see he layers that ball perfectly, boom, over the middle, okay? And that's a good chunk play right there. So when Mike gets confident in stepping up into the pocket instead of drifting back and trying to make a play going left or right, he starts stepping up. Oh my God, like Mike is going to be so good because I think Kevin Stefanski will teach him, hey, you got to step up, you got to step up. And then stuff like this starts to open up, all right? And I'm liking what I'm seeing. Now, once again, with the gadget whole thing, if we get a gadget guy, and I said before, it'll open up the offense, not only for Drake, but for Mooney. And you're going to see what I'm talking about here. So you're going to get this orbit motion by Nick Chubb, and he's going to do a swing route, all right? Now they're going to set up the swing screen right here, and we're going to get this backside slant right there, okay? Or a little glance, whatever, all right? So you're going to see it's going to just open up right here, all right? And the reason why I said having a gadget guy that knows how to stretch defenses horizontally, it makes the job easier because when you watch this play out, all right, and also I forgot to mention, okay, this is a 4 strong. They're going to motion into 4 strong, which means you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, okay? So this is going to pull all of these defenders over here, okay? It's going to pull them all over here and open up a window for this slant. Okay, this is a good play design. Now, if you don't have a guy that can threaten defense horizontally doing this, then it doesn't really work. So imagine this being a Bijan. Imagine this if this was 2024, if this was Ray, all right? Or imagine if this was 2016. Imagine if this was Taylor Gabriel or Tevin Coleman. This would work, okay? Because now look at this. What happens is you're going to get this swing route. Like I said, you see these guys, they're forced to communicate. Let me move this down right here. And you're going to see these guys favor this way, all right? And then you already know when you're playing a Todd Bowles defense, when they're in this odd front, you're already going to get a weak dropper off the line, okay? You typically don't get them dropping out from the strong side. They always drop weak, okay? So you're going to see he's going to expand fast, and you see these guys are going to push over to the 4 strong, and he's going to cut right off of his butt, and that's an easy catch, okay? So like I said, having these type of things will make this job easier for the other team, okay? So, and then it also helps that these guys actually get on the routes too, okay? So they attack upfield, and you're going to get these 2 spot routes, and he's going to just run up the field. But still, easy completion right here because we got these guys going the other way, and we hit them back where they vacated. So easy completions. And then here we go. I think I showed this in my first. I'm pretty sure I did. I know I did. We're going to get this motion across from number 8. I think this is Elijah Moore right here. You're going to get this motion. It's going to be a jet motion, okay? And remember, imagine this is Zachariah Branch, Taylor Gabriel, Tevin Coleman, Ray McLeod doing this. And we're going to ride the fake right here by the quarterback. He's going to set up the throw, okay? And then we're going to get this pylon route by the receiver. We're going to get this sail route by the tight end. And you still get your 3-level flood concept, okay? And remember, when you have a guy that can stretch this defense horizontally, you're going to see what it does to this defense, all right? These guys are going to fly out there and everything, okay? I think they're going to get a rotation down like this, and they're going to do it like that. But, like, you're going to see what I'm talking about, all right? You're going to see, yeah, these guys are going to rotate up. They're going to rock and roll the safeties. That's the correct term. That's my fault. But you see, these guys are going horizontally now, and that means we can hit them vertically now, okay? So you see the cell route's going to be open, but you see this corner, remember, like I said before, he's stuck between deep and less deep, deep and less deep, and he picks the less deep option. And you see Deshaun Watson just puts a ball out there, and he was able to get extra yards after the catch. But you see what I'm talking about, how these guys, they all, look at this, including Buda Baker, one of the better safeties in the league. He's going to fly down there, all right? These guys run out there, okay? He's going to go to the middle of the field, but he's going to be too late. They forced that late rotation. That way he was going to be late to this, okay? Because imagine if he was still here, he could be in a better position to help that. Like, this is good game planning right here, all right? I just don't know what to tell y'all. Like, this is a good game plan, all right? Everybody, you have 3 guys in the same area, okay? Like, come on, man. We need somebody that can stretch these defenses like that, okay? And we just don't have it anymore, and we need to find somebody who can. And then this one right here is my favorite play because we've seen, what's the team? The 49ers do it before. All right, so this is what's going to happen. A lot's going to be going on, so just stay with me right here. So first of all, what we're going to get a late blitz by, I think this is Julian Love. He's going to creep down. He's going to rush through the B gap, okay? Just keep that in mind because that's why this play, it hits faster than it should have, okay? So what we're going to get this over and then into an orbit motion out into a swing screen. We're going to get this guy blocking in. He's going to release flat like he's blocking. You're going to get like he's blocking right here, okay? Then we're going to get here, we're going to get the tight end blocking, okay? But guess what? He's going to release up the field, okay? We're going to get this guy staying back, and then you're going to have another guy run out like this, okay? We're just going to get guys running off right here, okay? But you're going to see what the quarterback does, all right? He's going to drop back like he's throwing it here, and he's going to pivot like he's going there, and he's going to actually throw it over here, okay? Now, it doesn't help that, you know, once they get into this, they rotate once again. So, like, it started out as 2 high, but you could tell, like, he's already in the middle of the field. You have to know he's coming down, okay? But they started this, like, fake 2 high shell, so it really shouldn't have worked because they have a safety in the post, okay? But it still ends up working regardless because, once again, that gadget guy, he starts everything, all right? Because look at this. You're going to see, you're going to initially get the run fake going this way. You're going to get him going out, all right? That's my fault. You're going to get the slot blitz. That's on me. That's completely on me, guys. But you're going to get the blitz right here. This safety is going to run down right there. These guys are going to chase this screen right here. Now, I'm at, like, let's say this is Bijan. Everybody's going to go where Bijan is going, all right? So this is going to still be open off principle. But if you get an extra guy that can really force his defense to be lost, get their eyes in the wrong spot. Because, look, you even got this guy's eyes over there. Then he starts to run over there, and then you get David Njoku releasing late, and nobody's there to guard him, and you get an easy touchdown. Okay, but you see what I'm saying? Where if you can move these guys horizontally, you can do whatever you want with the defense. Okay, because that's what the Stefanski, the tree he comes from, the West Coast tree. That's what they all about: stretching you horizontally and getting you out of place and then hitting you where it hurts. Okay, so this is what I really like about this offense, bro. I really like it. And once you understand that the conversation about wide receiver stops being about raw production and it starts about being about leverage, structure, and honesty, which is exactly how Kevin Stefanski wants to play the game. And if tight ends are how this offense stabilizes itself and receivers are how this defense is, or enforce defense to stay honest, then the next logical question becomes unavoidable. What is the true ceiling? Because everything right there is pretty much filled. We fill in the depth. We address what I just talked about. We get Mike on the same page as Kevin Stefanski. This offense, it has the potential to go through the roof, and I really do believe that. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. If y'all did enjoy this video, be sure to like, subscribe for more. I'll see you guys later next video. Goodbye.